What would you say if a cop looked right at your phone and said, "Turn that camera off right now"? If you answer that order the wrong way, you can turn a normal stop into a bigger problem for yourself. One bad sentence can cost you your footage, your case, and your confidence in seconds. Hit subscribe right now because what you're about to hear could protect you in the exact moment your hands start shaking. And tap like now so you can find this again fast when you need the words under pressure. You need this before you ever hear that order in real life. I'm going to break down the one line that keeps you calm, the backup line you use if the pressure goes up, the mistake that gets people detained longer, and the phone sentence that stops you from giving away your whole device. Most people have no idea how fast this goes sideways when you start arguing instead of speaking with control. Let me show you exactly how to keep your ground without acting tough, rude, or reckless. You do not need a law degree for this. You need short lines you can actually remember while your heart is pounding and your brain is blank. Here's why this matters for you so much. When an officer says, "Turn that camera off," they are often testing two things at once. First, they are testing whether you know your rights. Second, they are testing whether they can push you into panic. That panic is where you make mistakes. You talk too much, you move too fast, you grab your phone weird, you stop recording even though you did nothing wrong, or you mouth off and hand them a different reason to act. Here's the trick they don't want you knowing. You can stand up for yourself without sounding combative. I've analyzed over 200 body cam videos, and the people who do best are not the loudest people. They are the calmest people. They know the exact words and they say them without extra drama. The first thing you do is lock in your baseline. If the officer tells you to shut the camera off, you do not debate the Constitution on the roadside. You do not lecture. You do not say, "I know my rights" in a smart tone. You give one short sentence that does two jobs. It shows you are calm and it shows you are not interfering. Let me show you exactly what you say. "Officer, I am not interfering. I am recording for my safety and yours." Word for word. Burn that into your memory. That line works because you are framing your camera as a safety tool, not a threat. You are telling the officer you are not escalating. You are not hiding the recording. You are not rushing them. You are not sneaking around. You are just documenting the contact. That matters because courts have repeatedly looked at whether the person recording was in public and whether they were interfering. If you stay calm and stay out of the way, your position gets stronger. Bad way. Most drivers say, "Why? What are you hiding?" Then the stop gets personal and the officer starts focusing on your attitude. Good way. Smart drivers say, "Officer, I am not interfering. I am recording for my safety and yours." Then the contact stays calmer and your rights stay clearer. Here's the reality. A lot of people think the magic is in sounding fearless. It's not. The magic is in sounding reasonable. You want the whole scene, and maybe later a judge, to hear that you were calm, direct, and non-threatening. Defense attorneys use this exact line in court because it instantly shows your purpose. You were documenting, you were not obstructing. The legal backup for you starts with cases like Glik versus Cunniffe and Fields versus City of Philadelphia. In plain English, those courts said people have a First Amendment right to record police doing their jobs in public. That means if you are standing where you are allowed to stand and you are not getting in the way, recording is generally protected. That does not mean every officer will respect it in the moment, but it means your words should be built around that rule. Calm, public, non-interfering. Now hear this part clearly. Your right is strongest when your behavior looks clean on video. Hands visible, voice steady, no stepping forward, no sudden reaching, no fake bravado. If you are holding the phone, keep the movement simple. If your phone is mounted, even better. You want the officer to look unreasonable if they keep pushing. You do not want to help them say you were aggressive or creating a safety issue. Some officers will back off the moment you use that line. Some won't. That does not mean your line failed. It means you now move to the next step without changing your tone. Legal experts agree this is your strongest protection because it plants your side of the story right there on the recording. You made it clear you were not interfering. You made it clear why you were recording. And you did it in simple words a jury could understand. Think you could stay that calm with lights flashing in your face? Let me know in the comments because most people freeze until they practice the words out loud. Now let's talk about what happens when the officer keeps pushing. Maybe they say, "I said turn it off." Maybe they say, "If you don't stop recording, you're going to have a problem." This is where you separate compliance from surrender. You can obey lawful movement or safety instructions without giving up the recording. Here's exactly what you say. "I will comply with lawful orders, but I do not consent to stop recording." Keep it short, keep it boring, keep it calm. This line matters because officers can sometimes tell you where to stand, how far back to move, or how to avoid creating a danger. They cannot just turn your rights off because they do not like being filmed. That is the big difference you need in your head. If they say move to the sidewalk, you can move. If they say stand behind the curb, you can stand there. If they say do not walk into traffic, you obey. But none of that means you must kill the recording. Bad way. Most drivers say, "I'm not doing anything you say." Then the officer now claims you were refusing lawful commands. Good way. Smart drivers say, I will comply with lawful orders, but I do not consent to stop recording. Then you stay safe without giving away your position. Former police officers have confirmed this works because it removes the easy excuse. If the officer later says you were being difficult, the video may show the opposite. It may show that you were ready to comply with safety directions while still keeping your camera on. That is a huge difference. Here's the reality. Your rights do not protect you from every order in every place. If you are in the middle of the street, you can be ordered out of the street. If you are crowding an arrest, you can be pushed back. If you are on private property where you do not belong, your position gets weaker. Recording rights are not a free pass to interfere. But they are still rights. That is why your words need to show both parts at once. You are willing to comply with lawful orders. You are not willing to give up the recording just because someone demanded it. The court language for this is often reasonable time, place, and manner restrictions. Forget the fancy words. In normal English, it means police can control real safety issues, but they cannot use safety like a magic word to erase your camera. Turner versus Driver made this point in simple form. The court recognized a First Amendment right to record police, but also said normal limits can apply. So your job is not to win a speech contest. Your job is to make it obvious that you are respecting real limits while protecting your rights. This is 100% legal when you are in a public place and not interfering. That sentence matters because some people think they must either fully submit or fully fight. No, you can move back and keep filming. You can comply and still refuse consent. You can be respectful and still be firm. Watch what happens when you use that sentence the right way. The officer now has to deal with a person who sounds controlled, reasonable, and aware. That often changes the whole tone of the stop. And here is something else you need to remember. The more emotional you sound, the easier it is for them to frame you as the problem. The calmer you sound, the harder that becomes. So, if the officer repeats the order 3 times, you do not invent 3 new answers. You repeat your line. Same volume, same pace, same words. That broken record style is what keeps you from talking yourself into trouble. The third tactic is for the moment officers shift from your camera to your phone. This is where people make a giant mistake. They think the fight is about whether they can record. But sometimes the bigger danger is what happens after that. An officer says, "Give me the phone," or "Unlock it," or "Let me see what you recorded," or worst of all, "Delete that." If you hear any version of that, you need a new line immediately. Here's exactly what you say. I do not consent to any search, seizure, or deletion of my device. Those words matter. Listen closely because this is critical. You are not physically resisting. You are not jerking the phone away. You are not pulling your hands back. You are not turning the stop into a wrestling match over a screen. You are saying out loud that you do not consent. If they take the phone anyway, your refusal is now on the record. That can matter later in court. If they order you to unlock it, you repeat the line. If they say delete the video, you repeat the line. Bad way. Most drivers say, fine, just look at it. Then the officer starts going through the device and your whole life opens up. Good way. Smart drivers say, I do not consent to any search, seizure, or deletion of my device. Then your refusal is clear and your rights are preserved. This comes straight from Supreme Court rulings. In Riley versus California, the Supreme Court said police generally need a warrant before searching the digital contents of your phone. In plain English, your phone is not like a wallet or a cigarette pack. It holds your messages, your photos, your location, your whole digital life. That is why the court said, officers usually need judicial permission first. So if someone tells you to hand over the phone and open it up, your answer should be short and firm. You also need to know this. The government may not lawfully delete your photos or video. If an officer tells you to erase footage, do not do it for them. Say the line again. I do not consent to any search, seizure, or deletion of my device. This is 100% legal. It is also smart because it protects more than one thing at once. It protects your footage, your privacy, and your chance to challenge what happened later. Watch what happens when people forget this step. They think, I'll just show the officer the one clip and this will all end. But the moment the device is unlocked, control can disappear fast. Maybe they swipe, maybe they scroll, maybe they see something unrelated, maybe the original issue becomes 5 new issues. You never want your phone to become the second crime scene. That is why this line is so powerful for you. It is not angry, it is not dramatic, it is clear, and clear beats clever every single time. If they take the device despite your refusal, do not fight with your body. Let the record show your words were clean. If you have cloud backup on, even better. But whether you do or not, your job in that moment is the same. Verbal refusal, physical calm. If you've made it this far, you're serious about protecting yourself. Show me by hitting that like button because the next move is the one people forget when the stop gets longer and the pressure gets heavier. The fourth tactic is for the moment the stop drags on and you need to pin down what is happening. Maybe you are standing there, maybe the officer has stopped talking about the original reason for the stop. Maybe now it is just pressure, delay, and more commands around the camera. You need a line that forces clarity. You look at the officer and say this: "Am I being detained or am I free to leave?" Those exact words. That question matters because confusion helps them and hurts you. If you do not know whether you are free to go, you keep talking, you keep waiting, you keep trying to explain. But the moment you ask that question, the scene gets sharper. If they say you are free to leave, you leave. If they say you are detained, now you know this is no longer just a casual exchange. Bad way. Most drivers say, "So what's the problem, man?" Then the officer keeps the conversation loose and keeps fishing. Good way. Smart drivers say, "Am I being detained or am I free to leave?" Then the officer has to make the situation clear. If the answer is that you are detained, you move to your final safety line. "I am invoking my right to remain silent and I want a lawyer." That is the end of your talking. No speeches, no explaining your camera, no trying to sound innocent. You stop feeding the scene with extra words. This is where people hurt themselves the most. They have already done a solid job for 2 minutes, then they ruin it because the silence feels awkward. So they start filling the space. "I record everybody. I didn't mean anything by it. My cousin's a cop." None of that helps you. It only gives them more material. The reason this tactic matters is simple. Police contacts can stretch if you let them stay vague. When you ask if you are detained or free to leave, you make them choose a lane. That protects you because it keeps the moment from drifting into endless questioning. Legal experts agree this is your strongest protection once the stop stops making sense. You force clarity and then you stop talking. Now put the legal map together in your head. Glik versus Cunniffe said a person recording police openly in public had First Amendment protection. Fields versus City of Philadelphia said you do not need some special press badge or protest sign to have that right. Regular people have it too. Riley versus California said your phone's digital contents usually need a warrant before police can search them. In plain English, your camera is not a favor from the officer, your recording can be protected, and your phone is not theirs to explore just because they want to. That does not mean you can do anything you want. You still cannot interfere. You still cannot step into a dangerous scene. You still cannot ignore real safety commands. But these cases matter because they show you the difference between a lawful safety order and a demand that is just meant to shut your camera down. Your lines work because they are built around that difference. You stay calm. You stay back, you keep your hands visible, you refuse consent clearly, and you ask for clarity before you keep talking. Here's how this sounds in a real stop. You are pulled over at night for a broken taillight, you hit record on your phone and place it where it can see your hands and the window. The officer walks up, notices the phone, and says, "Turn that camera off." The wrong way starts fast. You snap back, "You can't tell me what to do." Now the officer changes tone. You lift the phone higher. They tell you to stop moving. You get louder. They say step out. You keep arguing. Then they ask for the phone. You unlock it because you think showing the clip will calm them down. Now the stop is a mess. The camera issue became an attitude issue, then a movement issue, then a phone issue. You lost control because you chased the argument instead of using the script. Now, the right way. The officer says, "Turn that camera off." You answer, "Officer, I am not interfering. I am recording for my safety and yours." They say, "I said, turn it off." You answer, "I will comply with lawful orders, but I do not consent to stop recording." They tell you to keep your hands where they can see them. You do that. They tell you to step out. You step out. Then they ask for the phone. You say, "I do not consent to any search, seizure, or deletion of my device." If the stop keeps dragging and drifting, you ask, "Am I being detained or am I free to leave?" If they say detained, you stop talking and ask for a lawyer. Do you hear the difference for yourself? In the wrong version, your emotion controls the scene. In the right version, your script controls your part of the scene. That is what you want. You cannot control the officer. You can control your words, your tone, and your choices. Next week, I'm revealing what to say when an officer says, "If you've got nothing to hide, let me search it." Subscribe now because that line tricks people into giving away everything. So here's your quick recap. First, when they say turn the camera off, your baseline is simple. "Officer, I am not interfering. I am recording for my safety and yours." Second, if they keep pushing, you separate movement from surrender. "I will comply with lawful orders, but I do not consent to stop recording." Third, if they go for the phone, you protect the device and the footage with one sentence. "I do not consent to any search, seizure, or deletion of my device." Fourth, if the stop turns vague and messy, you force clarity with, "Am I being detained or am I free to leave?" You do not need perfect nerves. You need a script stronger than your panic. Hit subscribe so you catch the search consent video next week. Smash like if these lines gave you a real plan you can actually remember. And drop a comment telling me which sentence you're going to memorize first. Stay safe out there.